four big mega opportunities. Okay. There's too much glib talk about, hey, we are deglobalizing, Germany is deindustrializing, we're going to de-dollarize the world, the US is dead. I mean, there's so much of that commentary going on. Let me walk you through and what I'm seeing. We're seeing a reglobalization that completely reset in terms of global powers and so on.
Yeah.
The second thing I think is industries, it's been my passion of mine for a while. I've never seen industries change so much as they have in the last 5 years because of COVID, because of energy pressures, because of climate change urgency and digital transformation. And I'll go through that. Obviously, the whole Gen AI, but broad automation, opportunities. I don't think we're looking at it big enough in terms of the whole enterprise. We're still sticking to our functional silos and so on. But we'll go into some of that. And then one thing, Don, this is something a customer about 4 months ago slapped me in the face and he said, Vinny, you are so focused on the top three. It's about new markets for you. So there is right before our eyes, 50% of ECC customers in SAP world have not moved to S4. Probably 80% of Oracle, JD Edwards, and Siebel and PeopleSoft haven't moved over to their products, right? Something is wrong with the industry.
Yeah.
Same thing with Unit4, same thing with IFS. The amount of people stuck in old versions is incredibly high. So, you and I as analysts need to be telling people something is wrong, guys. We need to look at why people are not moving over. Because that's actually pretty easy money if you can move them over, right?
It is.
But it's not happening. So let me go through these four things real quickly. Broadly, the verticalization of global is a broad comment. If you look at a grid, Gartner used to do all these grids on country and industry. If you look at it today in terms of NetSuite being born in 1997, right? It's been at least 25 years since cloud apps started to emerge.
Yeah.
You look at it by country. How many countries can NetSuite support? If you look at it by verticals, industries, it's shocking. It's shocking how we've only reached about 25% penetration. Most of it is in the West. Most of it is in safe manufacturing or a couple of financial services industries. This is a macro slide on opportunities. Let's drill into some of this. So moving to the next one. So let's talk about the globalization thing. What I'm seeing is a lot of idle talk, right? Like I said, people are saying Germany is a sick man of Europe. It's deindustrializing. Well, they're going through an energy crisis, no question. They're facing up to the fact that wind and solar didn't get them beyond 30-40% of their economy. They were too dependent on Russian gas. They're going through a transition. But do I think Germany's going to roll over and die? No. They're already looking at the hydrogen economy. They're already getting LNG from US and Qatar and so on. It's going to bounce back. They're too smart a country to just disappear. Okay.
Yeah.
People talk about de-dollarization. But three things need to happen for the US to disappear from impact on the world. One is the BRICS countries and everybody else has to learn how to import, not just export. They become so addicted to exports, and they won't be able to export to each other unless they have a mindset of, hey, we need to buy as much as we sell. That's going to take some time. Second, none of these countries want anything to do with immigration. The world needs a safety wall of 10, 15, 20 million immigrants a year. Okay? If the US disappears, somebody else is going to have to step up. Saudi Arabia has a lot of land, Brazil has a lot of land, but try telling them that today. They're not ready to listen to that. You tell India, why don't you take some immigrants? And they go, oh, we've already got such a population problem. But somebody will need to step up. Okay.
Yeah.
And the third big one, which we're already seeing now, is the US Navy for 100 years has basically kept trade routes open. Well, we're seeing what's happening in the Middle East right now, right? So somebody's going to have to step up, otherwise global trade will shrivel. So, people talk about dollar is going to disappear, it's going to become not so important. Maybe in 10 years, not for any time soon. So what I'm seeing is multinationals are moving countries like never before. Because of inflation, many of them are leaving Argentina.
Yeah,
Many of them are forced to leave Russia because of the Ukraine war.
exactly.
A lot of them strategically decided it's going to be China plus one. So they're diversifying away from China to Vietnam or Mexico or whatever. Okay. So it's not like they are completely moving everything back to the US or Netherlands or whatever. They're shifting their country portfolio. And what they find quite often is there aren't too many technology solutions in these new markets. Okay. So that's the MNC market. The second thing is there are a whole bunch of new tiger economies, right? If you look at fast-growing economies around the world, clearly India is one, China has always been one for 20 years, but there are places like Kenya, there are places like Indonesia, Malaysia, that are growing very, very well. And if the Western software vendors don't come up with solutions, guess what? There are vendors like Zoho that are willing to step up and say, I will service the UAE, I will support Nigeria, and so on. Okay, so wake up call to Western vendors. Don't neglect these fast-moving markets. What's fascinating is there are some new frontiers that I never. I've traveled like you, Tom. I've been to 75 countries in my lifetime. Okay,
Not that much, but that's enough for me. Yeah.
Well, but you've traveled a fair amount, right?
Yeah.
And I used to think some countries will never change. I'm seeing Saudi Arabia get into tourism. It was very difficult. They were very, very careful about letting people come in. Only business people were allowed to come in. Ladies weren't really encouraged to come in. That mindset is changing. I never thought it would happen, right?
Yeah.
So there are new markets that are emerging that we need to be aware of and not hold on to old assumptions. Hyperscalers have really changed the global game. They've made DevOps open to just about every country where they're in. The Kenyan programmers are as good as programmers you can find in Boston or Amsterdam. Okay, so there's a whole new world that hyperscalers have created that I don't think software vendors necessarily appreciate how much change has happened because of that. And then there's a lot of entities, not always positive, but you can't ignore what the WEF in Davos this week comes up with. Some of the ideas are crazy, but they're influential players. So the whole world has changed in the last few years. We need to open our eyes to the opportunities and the risks. Okay, let's go into the verticals, unless you have a comment here.
No, I see. I'm not following things on a country level, but I definitely see that there are movements, and of course, with the movements come opportunity, and that's an interesting thing to look at because I think a lot of companies out there miss that. Yeah, and that's.
Don, here's the risk. When I talk to US software vendors, invariably they'll say, well, when I need to go into a new market, I need to look at least 10 million in investment. That is the hurdle they look at. They go, guys, why do you think it's always 10 million? Why don't you try some new channels? Why don't you try web selling? Why don't you try, the new lower cost of entering a market? And that light bulb hasn't gone on, right? So because they don't do it, some of the Western investors also have that mindset. Oh, it's too expensive to enter a new market.
It has become significantly cheaper at the end, but and for a lot of companies, for a lot of software at the end, they don't even have to deal with the regulations. I come from the ERP world, and it had to be about financial regulations that you have to support, and the banking formats and so on. And for payroll, how do you deal with that? But for a lot of software out there, that's not even a thing. So by definition, these countries or these companies and these organizations can sell globally. Just where do you pick your market?
But Tom, even the regulatory stuff and the language and the scripts and so on, 20 years ago, we were doing that the first time.
Yeah.
Now it's been done. I mean, it's always fascinating to talk to SAP and see how many different countries they support in a single system, right? It's not that they developed it overnight.
No,
Many
true.
different players have contributed to, double byte and all kinds of underlying platform portability across countries. So it's a lot easier, a lot cheaper than it was when you and I were
For sure.
growing up.
Yeah.
Let's go into verticals real quick. So, the book that I wrote with SAP last year really opened my eyes to how much change has happened. We know that industries are constantly changing, right? Because the big players in each industry are looking at growing in adjacent markets. They make acquisitions that take them into new markets and all that. So it's never been static, but it's dramatically increased in the last 2 years. COVID allowed so many CPG companies to say, I'm going to go direct to market. Retailers are being affected by store closings and all that. Why don't we look at going direct? Okay. If you look at pharmaceutical companies, they're going direct, bypassing drug companies in some cases, right? So direct to consumer became a phenomenon. If you look at reverse logistics, logistics in general, last mile delivery and so on, it allowed a number of new players to come in, right? A lot of new kitchens to open up that allowed, they didn't have a brand, they could produce an ethnic type of food and use a last mile delivery firm to go to market, right? So
Yeah,
a
true.
lot of these subtle changes have been happening in the last few years.
Yeah,
But
great.
as I mentioned, a lot of edge applications became viable. Telemedicine in healthcare. It was always available. As a healthcare executive told me, he said, when we started playing with telemedicine in 2001, but nobody wanted to use it. No patient really wanted to use it.
Yeah, that's true.
Suddenly in 2021, we got to 50% overnight.
Yeah.
Thank God
Overnight,
we
yeah.
had some telemedicine capability, right? He says, will it stay at 50%? Probably not, but I'm glad we've been doing it for 20 years. Now, how many software vendors were ready for that? Very few, right? You look at retail, intelligent returns, I mentioned, 20% of e-commerce is return. That needs something that will scale, a process that will scale to make
Yeah,
a
true.
decision, accept the return or don't accept the return. If you accept the return, what are the reverse logistics? That should all be laid out in a process. You shouldn't have humans deciding item by item, right? So intelligent returns has become a huge opportunity in retail. We identified about 100 edge applications across industries that would not have sold 5 years ago. Today, you could sell them. Now, why aren't startups getting into these edge applications? Each one of them is a unique opportunity, right? So I think people need to look at verticals a lot closer and don't look at it from one of the most frustrating things is you go to ERP vendors and they'll talk about acquisitions they made in the 90s or 80s, and you go, guys, seriously, you're still trying to sell that stuff, right? You got to look at it new, and you got to look at it in smaller bite-sized applications rather than trying to sell the big ERP, big nut all over again. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to
The
the
question at the
third.
end is the question what keeps me going at the end is why people still decide so much for horizontal rather than the vertical side. But we can have the discussion after this slide.
Well, because there are many more horizontal. If you look at addressable market, right? If you're building a general ledger, or you're building a core basic HR system, there are 10 million customers in the world for that. If you're building something for intelligent returns, there may only be 100,000 retailers or CPG companies that are interested in that. So it's a much smaller addressable market. But as I always tell you, it's a much stickier market. If you look at SAP's verticals, 20 years later, customers can get off that, right? So you make it up in the long run, but a lot of the investors will look at the big addressable market and say, I want you there. Well, if you want to be there, there's a lot more competition. It's actually commoditized.
Exactly. Yeah, it's this whole thing of that is such a interesting discussion, and I continue to see it. We have to invest in a market that has a very large, well, the total addressable market, the TAM, needs to be very, very big and growing fast. And if you get 1% of that, we've made it. The question at the end is, like, why would you be betting all your money on that large market, where if you zoom in and go the niche route, which is the vertical edge example that you just highlighted, the pain is much bigger, sales cycles are much shorter, win rates are going to be much higher because less competition and more value delivered. And the traction that you're looking for is going to kind of develop way faster than you would do with a horizontal product that is going into a red ocean.
Well, let's talk about AI and automation. So
Exactly.
generative AI clearly dominated last year. I did a number of these conversations with a number of people who are observing different trends, right? And what I kept coming back to is the initial enterprise use cases kept coming back to it's something to do with HR or finance or procurement or chatbots in customer service and so on. Mostly SG&A focused, right? And when I talk to customers, they're looking at revenue applications, they're looking at much more ambitious applications internally. They're looking to monetize their own operational data. So I think vendors will need to become a lot more ambitious in their use cases going forward, because otherwise customers will say, I can build it myself, right? I had the data. What are you really bringing me? I don't need an LLM from you. I don't need, so I think that's a big challenge for vendors going forward, is to become ambitious in their scope of application, scope of the enterprise that they're going after.
Exactly.
The other thing that I don't hear from a lot of vendors, I hear it from the hyperscalers, is developer productivity. I mean, Gen AI should allow you to generate new code much faster than and again, people go, I can get it done in India or Sri Lanka for $30 an hour or whatever. Not that exciting. It's actually, don't underestimate the power of Gen AI when it comes to developer productivity, right? The one thing I'm seeing is we've kind of forgot about predictive AI, predictive maintenance, demand forecasting, and so on. What's happened is we're getting a lot more data streams available. Now, I like to use the example from Costco. I wrote something on them 6-7 years ago. And in Costco, if you go into one of their stores, they have a food court. And, they make they don't wait for demand. It's made in advance of demand. So they wanted to get their demand forecasting a lot more accurate. So they had obviously a lot of point of sale data for 6-7 years, 10 years in some cases. They had some weather data they were applying, but then they were looking at new streams, gas prices. I said, why are you looking at gas prices? Well, many of our stores have gas pumps. And if you're 25 cents cheaper than a gas pump within 5 miles, people will actually drive to our gas pump. And if they come to the gas pump, guess what? They'll come into the store. So that is a demand signal that's starting to focus on. Sports events, and just like weather affects whether people come to a store. Sports events can affect you positively or negatively, right? Big game, people will stay at home. Certainly won't be shopping. So there's a lot more new data streams that can make demand forecasting a lot more realistic. So that's an exciting thing. I'm seeing predictive AI get a resurgence as a result of the interest in generative AI. But the biggest thing is I don't see software vendors look at operational automation, right? So my example of Costco, there's so much going on with satellites and robotics and drones and sensors and so on. I don't see the software vendors interested. Well, that's hardware. It's not hardware, guys. Combine your stuff with theirs, and you can deliver a lot more value than you're delivering now. Okay? So I really want vendors to not just think AI, I want them to think broader automation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And but it's going back to like, what is the problem you're trying to solve here? And looking at what the customer expects as the end result, as the ideal end result. Like, what would your customers cheer for and makes you sweat? That's a question that I love. And that will drive these type of scenarios. Because yes, it's harder to do, but the results of them are going to be, I hate that word always, revolutionary. Going to be way better than you could ever expect. But it requires a little bit of guts and but also opening your eyes. I've had a couple of people on my podcast that do exactly that, and it's fascinating stories.
And outcomes will always be better when you can deliver A plus B rather than just A or B, right? So it does require a lot more partnering with all of the guys in the image, right? Every one of those guys has their own go-to-market. If you can take their output or embed them in your product, you're going to have many, many, many more opportunities. Let's go to the final one.
Yeah, music to my ears. Streamlining migrations.
This is so frustrating. This is so frustrating. I jokingly say Jeffrey Moore did us a disservice by saying, focus on the chasm. Unfortunately, if you see a lot of people will talk about, oh yeah, we can squeeze the bell curve and come up with a shark fin. Well, we've ended up with a reverse shark fin. The shark fin is not in the front, it's in the back. That's what we need to have now. There's so many of them are lagging. We need to get them to move quickly. Okay. And so how do you make them do quickly? To me, the biggest single reason when I talk to customers and say, how can you stay on something 30 years old? Isn't it difficult for you to recruit? What are you going to do about AI? I mean, this is old stuff. Why are you stuck with it? They go, two things. The new versions didn't change much. I don't see much business value in moving to the new stuff.
Yeah.
And B, my God, the SIs think they're God's gift to earth and just want so much to get me to the new product. I can't afford it, right? So
True.
as an industry, there's a big opportunity to automate some of that SI work. In general, just to streamline, de-risk the migration. And I mean, I'm surprised more startups aren't looking at this. Because there are probably I would say close to 1 million ERP vendors across all of them and CRM vendors that need to be moved to more modern cloud, or if not cloud, some other new generation product. And it ain't happening. Shocking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's of course this thing of if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, what gets someone to move. And I completely agree with you. It's often very made very costly to move, whether it's on the licensed side or on the payment, but of course also on the side of all the work that has to be done. And that's I remember having part of the discussion with you in our previous podcast, and apparently it hasn't shifted yet. So possibly it's also because it's keeping a couple of industries alive.
The funny thing is, I've talked to several CIOs and I go, how do you recruit people to support your JD Edwards or their PeopleSoft? And they go, it's not yet a problem. I'm shocked when they say that, right?
Yeah.
Because there are many people who are going to support them till they retire. So I can understand that a little bit. Then I go, aren't your auditors concerned about these old applications? Yeah, they are, but we haven't been dinged enough so far. So when I listen to that, I just go, I can't believe they're saying this.
Yeah, it's
the pain of moving to the new product is so much greater than the pleasure that it's not happening.
And it should be the other way around, of course. And a lot of vendors, and that's what I see, of course, also on a day-to-day basis, they think that people get excited by the fact that there's all this new technology in there. And customers couldn't care less about that.
Well,
yes, but now it supports ChatGPT.
The end users do. But when you go to the CFO and CIO, they go, show me the cost, show me the payback, show me the risk, right? And that's where the answers are usually much more difficult.
Yeah, and that's why it's important. And going back to that previous example, that you look at what the outcome needs to be, because to get someone to move from what they have to where to something new, whether that is your own application or even a competitive application, it needs to be multiple X better in order to make up for all the risk and the effort and so on that is going to be there anyway. And otherwise, I wouldn't do
And
it either.
I mean, in our lives, we see it. I bought a new hybrid 6 months ago, and in 5 years, it's amazing how much cars have evolved, right? That is a rate of change in most companies. So why are we surprised that customers expect dramatically better stuff?
Yeah, of course. That's what we grow up with. We see it improve all the time.
Oh, we see that in our iPhones. We see that in most things, right? And
Oh, honestly, on the iPhone case, I've always been an Apple addict, but not sure whether 15 and 14 and 13 are that revolutionary. But anyway, that's a completely different thing.
I mean,
That's not
look,
business.
we're not talking about 15. We're saying go from version 1 to version 2, and we can't even do that in the enterprise.
True, exactly. Yeah.